John Sullivan with 401k Specialist, and this is the 401k Specialist Podcast. This week, we're joined by Ed Murphy, President and CEO of Empower Retirement, to discuss M&A and consolidation in the record-keeping space, the work environment during the pandemic, and just for the heck of it, NFL football. Empower announced two industry-shaking acquisitions in 2020, Personal Capital and MassMutual's retirement plan business, and we began by asking him about both. Ed, we know some of the advisors and firms that partner with Empower were concerned they might now compete with Personal Capital for wealth management dollars. Should they be concerned?
I don't think so. First of all, they would have been competing with Personal Capital before we bought them. And in terms of defined contribution advisors that work with us, we've been very consistent all along. And that is, if they're in the wealth management business and they and their sponsors give us direction, particularly as it relates to the rollover opportunities, that's something that they want to participate in and they can meet the needs of the client, then we honor that. So from that standpoint, I don't think anything's changed.
Right. Is your M&A strategy simply to buy institutional clients, Ed, so you don't have to get messy with the transitioning of any plans? What is your overarching strategy when it comes to M&A?
Well, I mean, I think we look at growth on the institutional defined contribution side in two ways. One is organic growth. You know, we've got a fairly large distribution team that is segmented across the various markets that we compete in. So the small corporate, the mid corporate, the large and mega, certainly the government market, and the not-for-profit space. And so we've actually maintained a fairly constant effort there. Like, we haven't really increased our staffing per se. What we've seen, though, is just an increase in productivity. So the volume we're driving per salesperson has gone up exponentially. So we're pretty pleased with where we are in terms of our organic growth rate. We've been consistently growing at 2 to 3 times the rate of the market. We expect to have the best year in the history of the company in 2021, just based on early commitments. So that'll be the best in our history. And then obviously we're going to continue to be opportunistic as it relates to other opportunities on the M&A side. Obviously the market is going to continue to consolidate. It's increasingly become more and more of a scale game. And, we're fairly busy now with the 2 acquisitions that we pursued this year. And we've got integration strategies and plans that are in place. So I wouldn't anticipate us participating in a meaningful way in an M&A perspective here over the next several months. But, clearly we think there's an opportunity to further consolidate and roll the market up, and we're going to pursue that strategy.
You said 2021, you expect it to be the best in the company's history. How did 2020 pan out for you with all the craziness that was happening at?
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with 2020. I mean, we finished at about 90% of our goal. So despite the fact that the whole sales process was really, at least towards the end of the first quarter into the second quarter, for all intents and purposes, was put on hold as companies focused inwardly on the more pressing issues, which is understandable. And then I think, like every organization, whether you're in this business or any other industry, everybody had to adapt to the new environment in terms of how you're going to engage prospects, and the selling process was fundamentally different and changed for sure. And then the sales cycle too had been extended. So I think what we're seeing is more comfort on the part of prospects to make these large, complex decisions, despite not necessarily meeting with people live in the same room. And so I think that's probably here to stay. That being said, I think we're prepared to respond to whatever the market demands are. And if customers want to see us in person, we'll be there in person. But if they find that this process of buying virtually and interacting virtually is more efficient, more productive, and they're comfortable with it, then we'll be prepared to execute that way as well.
Understood. So then specifically, how does the Suntrust record-keeping business fit into what you're looking to accomplish overall, just as an example?
Well, that was born out of the white label institutional business that we have, and that was a long-standing relationship. And so in some instances, the institutional partners start off by outsourcing the record keeping and the back office, and they continue to sell their own branded product. And then over time, some make strategic decisions to say, you know what, this is just not an area of focus for us. It's not an area where we want to really deploy resources. And so there's a decision made to exit the business. And we would certainly be a logical candidate for that business, given the fact that there's a pre-existing relationship and the plans are on our platform. But as you would expect, they have a fiduciary responsibility to evaluate the market and look at other opportunities, and that's clearly what they've done and what other partners have done.
Do you expect the same level of M&A activity in 2021 as in 2020, both for the firm and in the industry overall?
Well, I think that industry-wide, I would say a lot of the indicators would point to continued M&A activity, in part because there's just a tremendous amount of liquidity out there. And there's also increasingly demand, for these types of businesses. And so it's not clear to me who the logical acquirers are. They may not be in the traditional sense. You might see more financial buyers. We've seen that in the past with Blackstone acquiring Alight. And so you could see some of the financial buyers play, more of a presence. But again, I think there's, you've got 2 or 3 or 4 players, we would be included in this, that collectively have, well north of 50% of the share. And if you look at the market share and where it's been moving over the last 5 years, a disproportionate amount of the growth is occurring within those 5 firms. So there's winners and there's losers, and there's a few that are sort of treading water. So I've always said it's just a matter of time when people take a step back and reflect and just say, is this a business we can compete in? Are the scale players raising the bar for us in a way that we just can't compete? And, we expect to finish the year, well over $1 trillion in assets under administration, over 13 million Americans, over 70,000 plans that we're supporting. That gives us a tremendous cost advantage.
Understood.
Yep.
How did it go with MassMutual? Were you pleased with the outcome and the integration? And what maybe did you not expect that came out of the deal itself?
Well, the MassMutual, of course, just closed on December 31st, and we've stood up an integration effort, pretty comprehensive integration program. That'll take some 18 months or so to complete, between 18 and 24 months between transitioning the clients over and then, executing on all of the component parts of the integration. What's interesting, John, is there's some complexity to the MassMutual transaction in that the clients, the 26,000 customers, reside on 3 different platforms with 3 different data structures. So as you start to think about migrating those plans, we need a separate data strategy for each one of those platforms. Okay. Those effectively will be retired and they'll all migrate onto our own proprietary platform. So it has a high degree of complexity. It'll take us a while to complete it. I don't think there were any surprises per se, other than the fact that it was fairly complex,
Sure.
particularly in light of the sort of the breadth of the business and the fact that the business was on multiple platforms.
So how has Empower adapted to the work from home environment, Ed, that we're seeing now?
Yeah, I think like most companies, John, we've responded, I think, well. I guess the best testament of that is, what are we hearing from our clients, right? To the extent that experience is seamless and they haven't seen any real degradation in service, then I think that's a good thing. And that's essentially where we've been at. I think our client satisfaction scores, our net promoter scores, all those suggest that we're executing well. We moved pretty rapidly, I think, like most organizations, to a work from home. So essentially, we are working from home both here in the U.S. and we have some operations in India. They've been working from home as well. We have some 700 phone reps that are working from home that are taking calls, and we feel pretty good about the way we've been able to deliver for the client. We are expecting to begin a return to the office strategy. It'll be phased, but we're hoping and expecting that we'll be able to commence that effort in June of 2021. And then I think, we were probably 20 to 25% work from home prior to the pandemic. And my thinking is post-pandemic, we might be closer to 40. And that has a lot to do with employee preference, the desire for flexibility, and roles that in some instances don't necessarily require them to physically be in the office. So we want to be accommodative there. Our goal has always been to be an employer of choice, so we'll be flexible. But again, I think like everybody else, we're monitoring all of the activity and the vaccine rollout, and we'll make our plans. We'll adjust our plans accordingly.
But morale overall is pretty high.
I think it's very high, in part because despite the fact that we were in a global pandemic, our employees and our customers saw a decision to invest $4.5 billion in Empower in the form of two significant acquisitions. So we didn't rest on our laurels. We didn't sit back and say, we're going to wait until we get through this pandemic. We use this as a time to be opportunistic, to add scale to our business and to add new and enhanced capabilities with the Personal Capital acquisition, leveraging their intellectual property, their technology, their infrastructure. And so I think if you're an employee of Empower, you're feeling pretty good because you want to be with a company that's committed to growth, committed to investing in the business. And that's exactly what we're doing.
So with your personal and professional loyalties, Ed, will it be Tampa Bay or Kansas City in the playoffs?
Good question. I think Kansas City is vulnerable.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I mean, I think Brady's got a pretty strong receiving core.
I thought you were going to be more diplomatic, Ed. I like this answer.
Yeah, it's a tough one. My sense is, my gut instincts are telling me that it's a hell of a year for Tampa Bay, but it's probably not their year. I think you'll see a more formidable Tampa Bay next year, but who knows? On any given day, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Ed Murphy, that's exactly what we needed. Thank you so much for joining us. I do appreciate it.
Thanks, John. My pleasure. Appreciate it.